A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Learning Pod, brought to you exclusively by Infinity Learning Space. Now, as promised, Learning Pod has brought to you two experts in the industry, each of who are currently working in the industry, so they know and are well updated on the most recent changes and are also well updated in lecturing and the CA curriculum 2025 syllabus, which is exactly what we are going to talk about, because CA Sri Lanka, the CA Curriculum 2025, has been a very important, life-changing curriculum that we have been speaking about as aspiring chartered accountants and will continue to speak about in the future as well. So as mentioned, we have two wonderful experts in the industry, and we are absolutely honored to have both of them here with us. As you know, we have with us Miss Nayananjalee Tharika, who is a partner of her own audit firm with over 10 years of experience in the profession as a practicing chartered accountant. She is a fellow chartered accountant of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka and is a member of a member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, and also a fellow member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation. Ms. Nayananjalee is a tax expert in the industry with over 10 years of lecturing experience and having produced 6 prize winners to date. Well, a very warm welcome to you, Ms. Nayananjalee. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And we also have with us a law expert in the industry. We have with us Ms. Tharika Hevage. Ms. Hevage is an attorney at law with over 4 years of experience as a lawyer in the private bar. She holds an LLB Honours, Second Upper Division from the Faculty of Law, University of Colombo, an LLM Honours, First Class from the Staffordshire University of the UK, and a diploma in CIMA as well, while she is also reading for her PhD in law by the University of Colombo. She also holds multiple years of expertise in several private companies where her expertise is included in commercial, contract and company law areas, while being an academic and a researcher as well. Ms. Tharika Hevage, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's an honor to have you here joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure and honor to have both of you here with us. We have wonderful participants that are joining us to know more about the CA Curriculum 2025, and we thought it's best to speak to both of you about the curriculum change, about the CA Curriculum 2025. So, talking about tax and law. Let's start with tax, Ms. Nayananjalee. If we could talk about the transitional provisions, because in 2020, in the 2020 curriculum, there wasn't a tax paper, and we didn't really have a tax paper in corporate law, and was directly tested in the strategic level. So starting off with the transitional provisions, can we talk a little bit about the transitional provisions relevant to tax?
Yeah, of course. The thing is, in 2020 curriculum, in the BL7, which is the business level 2, we had a tax paper, and after that, corporate level, no tax paper, and suddenly in the strategic level, it has directed to the tax paper, which is XL3 in the high end. Then it was really good, but when it comes to that structure, actually there was a time gap as well as the knowledge gap, because after the business level 2 and the doing BL7 and coming to the high end of the SL3 paper, then maybe some points cannot remember to the students. Then we have to take some effort to take the student to the SL3, that particular level. Then anyway, under this new syllabus, it's really good, which we have all 3 pillars, the tax subjects, because it's maybe from students thinking, oh my god, what is this, for the all 3 pillars we have tax, but it's really good because it's to being a chartered accountant, the accounting standards, auditing standards, and the taxation and law, I think, according to my view, then these are the core which we really need to survive in the dynamic nature of this environment. Then under that, it's a one main change it has happened, which included this core subject to the each pillars, and it's a transform to or deliver that to the students. That's the one. And again, now the question is there. Now for the 2020 curriculum, it's still going till the June 2025 examinations. Now the question is there, if I have completed SL3, what is the transitional adjustment or transitional provision relevant to me? Then of course, don't worry. Under new curriculum 2025, you can, if you have passed to the SL3, then of course you can obtain the exemption under the tax. It's a subject under 2025, it's a strategic tax planning. Then under that you can take the exemption. And again, when it comes to the corporate level, now as you have mentioned, no tax subject, no, then again the students are thinking, what happened to me? Now anyway, we have CL4, which is the corporate law subject. In that, if you have completed that, of course in 2025 curriculum, the corporate law and tax subject, that particular student can take the exemption. Then in the subtopics and all these things, there are many changes happen, but in a very nutshell manner, I can tell these things with reference to transitional provisions, and the subject itself, it has some changes like it has explained.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Ms. Nayananjalee, just like you mentioned, so since we have, like you mentioned, there was only CL4. So I'm just gonna jump into talking to you, Ms. Tharika, because like she mentioned, in corporate level, we only had corporate law, but that's not the case now in strategic level. And but although it's corporate law is available in both corporate and strategic levels, majority of the syllabus content does include a high level of law included in the syllabus. So if you can take us through the transitional provisions related to law, can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yes, so like you already mentioned, Dhumendra, so earlier we had corporate law that was entirely 100% on the Companies Act. Then there was several other acts as Land Acquisition Act and also Foreign Exchange Act. So that all comprised everything into 100%. So we looked majorly into the Companies Act number 7 of 2007. So we looked at the directors, the types of companies, how the issue of shares happened. So all that into detail. But now the change that has come up is where that all that content has been put to only 55% of the syllabus. So which means the students have to put more effort, more understanding, more time to understand the concepts on taxation and also into law. Because I think in my previous session also I mentioned that this law is again it's not easy, right, for students to understand, because these students are accountants. They have learned accountancy, management accountancy, all that area. So law and taxation, it's a new area for students to focus on. Yeah. So again, the taxation, the 45% which is included in CL4, that is where we are going to look at towards taxation from a law perspective, because we have to analyze the Inland Revenue Act and then the VAT Act and also the new tax developments that have happened in the country. And we are not going to restrict there. We are going to look at if there is a violation of tax, if there has been tax evasion, right? Then what are the steps that we have to take? How a tax appeal can be filed? How what is the functionalities of the tax appeal commission and how a writ application can be filed? So it's a different area that we are going to look at, not like the general tax that people think of, the VAT and we pay VAT. It's not, right? We are going to look at it from a law perspective. So this is how the syllabus has changed. So in summary, earlier we had 100% into law, but now it's 55% into purely on law, on the Companies Act and other concepts that we studied earlier, and then another 45% has been added from the tax side, but more or less I would like to term it as tax law,
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So that means that it's very important for students as well, because in most cases, even in their workplaces, they are most likely due to deal with something which relates to law as well as tax. So Ms. Tharika, you mentioned 45% is taxation. So Ms. Nayananjalee, I'm going to come back to you and ask about in corporate law. Let's start with corporate law. So in corporate level.
tax, yeah.
Corporate level, it has 45% relevant to taxation. But like you mentioned, there's a lot that's still from the previous syllabus, it's still available, but there's additions. What are the new additions that have been included in the new syllabus?
Yeah, Dominda. If I have divided this 45% into three main areas, which is the corporate income tax and the VAT, it's been a main indirect tax, and again the how to resolve the disputes. The disputes probably with the Inland Revenue Department with reference to assessment, appeal, objection, and all these things. These are the core three sub-pillars it has divided under this 45% of the area. Now the thing is, now for the corporate income tax, it's obvious for us because we have done it even under the 2020 curriculum, even under BL7 as well as SA3 at the high end. And again VAT, of course, the same thing. But when it comes to this tax disputes, I'll start from the 10% area.
Okay.
Now, it has embedded the assessments, appeals, tax appeals commissioner, all these things. But however, it has again included how we are preparing appeal. From the taxpayer's perspective, how we are preparing appeal. Now in the earlier we have just looked at what's the time period, how it's been a valid appeal and all these things. Now not only that, we have to swim. That's the thing. Then practical application it has embedded. Then for students should know how to write appeal and to submit the Department of Inland Revenue on behalf of maybe your company, maybe you being a tax consultant, maybe on behalf of your client. That's the one thing. And not only appeal, the objections, written submission, then all these things. And again, when it comes to this corporate taxation, corporate income tax part, for the company tax, we are always looking for the computation. And the tax that decision making, okay, this level we are not just thinking about decision making, but in the with the calculations, for us to take the decisions, not only the provisions of the Inland Revenue Act, but also we need the provisions of the other laws, which is international sustainability standards and the ESG. Now the ESG is one of the core in the everywhere it is talking about. And again, the sustainability standards in syllabus it has embedded. Now being a student who is learning to be a chartered accountant, then they have to know how sustainability standards impacted to the taxation, or else in vice versa provision, how tax can be impacted to this. Then for that new part it has embedded. Then these are very important and the hot topics currently, and those hot topics included to the syllabus. Then this 45% with the 55% of the law, the 45% well managed with the theory, application, and going for deep and for the again high level of application. I can see. Then this is how this 45% has amalgamated.
Very interesting. So it's also going to be very useful
Yeah.
for all our students actually. So you mentioned about decision making as well. Let's talk a little bit about that, because in strategic level, they are the subject name itself has been changed to strategic tax planning, as opposed to what it was previously corporate taxation, I believe. Now it's strategic tax planning. What does that mean?
Yeah, then the question is, it's even in the 2020 curriculum, we have to plan tax, but it was not restricted. It was limited to the 10% of the area, which is tax planning and advising was one part, and taxation and business decision, 10, 10, 20. Now what has happened, the subject itself, we have to take the decisions. Then decisions on what? On the continuation of the business, which is the inorganic businesses and the organic businesses. Then for come back to your question, you have asked why this name it has changed. Then the reason is then we have to plan tax. That's the first thing. The tax planning is not the tax evasion. Then tax planning is using the law, which is current law under the prevailing acts. Then if we can effectively mitigate the tax, then it is a tax planning, which is always tax is a burden. No, it's not something which really love. Then to minimize that burden, we need to take the strategies on that. Then for that, we should have think logically and apply that. To apply the predetermined scenarios to Mintra, we don't have. Now for in my instance, if we have taken the client is coming to me and giving his scenario, his or her scenario, then I have to now project what is opinion, the correct opinion which I have to provide. Then the same thing is embedded to this strategic tax planning. Then we have to take the decisions on behalf of the continuation of the business. If we are starting business, it's our one, what we are going to do. And for the like that, it has aligned to take the tax planning and to take the decisions with the dynamic nature of the environment. Not only by considering Inland Revenue Act, not only VAT Act, not only SSCL, even money laundering and even the which is Fourth City Commissioning Act and the which is embedded the digital part. All these things taken together, how we are giving a good decision making. Then in this entire syllabus, that particular the student, he is projected as a decision maker. Then I think the correct name they have put, the strategic tax planning, I think the correct name put, and it's in line with the sub areas of the syllabus.
Wow, okay, very interesting. That's so interesting. And okay, so now since we've spoken about tax, we've spoken about the subject, we've spoken more details about it, let's move a little bit into the law aspect of it as well, because like Ms. Nayananjalee mentioned, there are a few new acts and a new few policies that were introduced as well, which are included in tax. So now Ms. Tharika, can we talk a little bit about, because you mentioned previously about how it was Companies Act, but now there are more, which includes like incorporation, capital markets winding up. Can we elaborate a little bit more about the changes to the new curriculum and how important is it that these changes have been included in the new curriculum?
Of course. So I would say this time there is more practicality on the side of CL4 because the syllabus is such they have taken the tax perspective and the law, the company law perspective also together and then incorporated all that into one syllabus. So even though we spoke of CL4 like corporate law separately, I think like Ms. Nayananjalee mentioned, everything is when you go work in a company, you face the problem at the same time. It can be, you will have to look at the Companies Act, you have to look at the VAT Act, Inland Revenue Act. So the problem is, you have to analyze all the statutes at the same time. So that practicality is actually included, embedded into this syllabus, which I think it's commendable. Because previously when I was also teaching the subject, I was thinking, okay, where am I going to start? Because law is something which is completely new to students. So where am I going to start? If I talk about the provisions in the Companies Act, they are too lengthy and convoluted. Even as lawyers, we take time to figure out the sections, and it's the same in all the other provisions in all other statutes of Sri Lanka. Because first to give out something, first they write the act in English and then they convert it into Sinhala, translate into Sinhala, but then ultimately we say that the provisions in the Sinhalese Act will prevail. Yeah. So there are, so things like that. So if I want to explain about interpretation of the statute to the students, they will get confused, right? So I don't want to go into that area. So therefore, I try to stick to what's there in the syllabus. But I think this time, because of how the syllabus is structured, there is more practicality. We can discuss more practical examples and talk a little bit about tax, even in the previous even in the first part of the syllabus where we are going to talk about winding up, the issue of shares, the types of shares, and the types of companies, incorporation, directors, types of directors, so all those things, and then give a little bit of flavor to it, and explain how tax and law come together, and then talk a little bit about tax also, the Inland Revenue Act. And another good thing that I see in this particular subject is that first they give priority to law, and then only they are coming to taxation, right? So I think it's good, because then the students' minds, they get prepared to learn tax, because ultimately, even as lawyers, not all lawyers will learn tax at the end of the day. So it's a new area. So I think the students' minds will get accustomed to what they are going to learn if they first learn law and then come into taxation. So that's my perspective of it.
That's very interesting, because, and especially what you said as well, because as accountants, I think it's important to see the legal side of it as well. So, okay, so Ms. Tharika, just to ask you a little bit about, because now you mentioned that there are different types of laws as well, different types of acts and everything, and most of it, like you mentioned, it's not limited. So now compared to the last curriculum, we have more acts involved, we have more statutory law, legal aspects involved. Can you tell us a little bit more about the new laws, the new acts that have been introduced in this curriculum?
Yes, so the Inland Revenue Act of 2017 has been incorporated into the syllabus, which we didn't speak before, and then of course the Companies Act is there, and then the VAT Act is also introduced into this particular syllabus, which we didn't discuss previously. So those are the two main acts that we are going to discuss, and also any other laws, regulations that may be relevant to taxation in Sri Lanka, because recently there were a lot of amendments that came into taxation area. For example, the introduction of advanced personal income tax, and then any other taxations that the companies have to pay. So those things we are going to discuss in this particular syllabus in relation to taxation, because earlier we only looked at the Foreign Exchange Act and the Land Acquisition Act apart from the Companies Act. But this time we are going to look at the taxation acts as well. Basically, the taxation law in Sri Lanka is governed by the VAT Act and the Inland Revenue Act, because these are the laws that apply to taxation in Sri Lanka. So if somebody violates these statutes, then they are in violation of the law of the country. So then we can take the government can basically take action against tax violations, and we see, I think it's good for students to learn about these things, because in practice we see how tax evasion actually affects people. Like if you go to district court of appeal, you see how tax evasion actually affects people. In the district court, people have to pay penalties on taxations, like if they evade tax, they have to pay penalties later on, like 2-3 times of what they have evaded. So I think as Ms. Nayananjalee also mentioned, the students who are going to work finally as tax consultants, they should also focus on how tax evasion by a company or by a person can ultimately impact them legally as well. They have to battle in court, and it's a disgrace at the end of the day. If you have to pay penalties, and if you don't pay penalty, you can be arrested, you can be put to jail. So all that has to be avoided. So I think these are the nitty-gritties that we are going to talk in the syllabus. We are going to look at not only from the person who evades tax, but also from the other side as well, the person who can take action for evading tax, and what are the defenses that the other party, the tax evader, can have, and filing of an appeal to the tax appeal commission if you are not able to pay tax. So all those practicalities we are going to again discuss, and these are the nitty-gritties that we are going to discuss in the syllabus.
Wonderful. And I think this is the beauty of having a lawyer as well, because now we see that side, that aspect of it as well, because you go to courts, you actually see this, so which is very important as well. So okay, wonderful, that's great. But I do have another question to add to this as well, because in the corporate law, in the corporate level, corporate law and taxation subject, there is an area on sustainability as an ethical imperative. What is this inclusion and what's the relevance to it and the importance of the area?
Yes, I think now we all talk about sustainability mostly from the economic aspect, and mostly, it's about, ESG, governance. Then sustainability is a part of the annual report. That is where the companies are still at. They are not looking at how sustainability can get affected if they have to battle in court, or if they have to battle the cases which will come up in future. So from a legal perspective, again, I think that's what we have to discuss. When by including sustainability, it's sustainability has a lot of there is social aspect to it, economic aspect to it, financial aspect to it. So we are going to add one more, which is the legal aspect to sustainability. How you can sustain in the corporate world by being a company which adheres to the laws, to the statutes, the regulations, the bylaws of the country. Because the legal sustainability of companies is also important, because what we see as lawyers is that sometimes the companies are running without adhering to laws, so they will get into trouble one day. They sometimes they evade customs, paying of customs. So there are issues like that which we don't want to see actually as companies, because they may not have had enough knowledge about it or enough awareness about it. So what we want our students is basically to give that awareness to wherever they are going to work, irrespective of whether it's a public sector, private, doesn't matter. Wherever they go, they need to give that understanding to their seniors, to the corporate world. So that's what I see. By incorporating this sustainability, I think it allows the students also to look at sustainability also from a legal perspective, because we don't want anyone to get into a legal battle at the end of the day.
Definitely, absolutely. And okay, so since sustainability was mentioned, I want to bring in another word, which is digitalization. And digitalization is definitely a key word. It's mentioned everywhere, and also in the budget, it was a huge highlight, comparatively huge highlight. So Ms. Nayananjalee, I want to ask you about digitalization, because I think in strategic level, mostly it was brought up in the strategic level subject. How important is it? Because there are also a few acts, I believe, Data Privacy Act and everything that's included, which would probably fall under digitalization. What exactly is the importance of including digitalization of taxation into the curriculum?
Yeah, indeed. The thing is, now for me as a practitioner, without having this tax digitalization, I cannot work now, because we are now very particular with the RAMIS, the Revenue Administration and Management System. Then everything, even we have online payment platform, and we have the e-services now, everything, even return filing, now everything now going for the manual, which earlier we have done. Then now even I cannot think, now I am so fair and so I am friendly with this system. Now the students, now we are looking for the paper side now. Then in that, for the students, even if they don't know, there is a digitalization of the tax. This is how the RAMIS is there, and from the RAMIS, what are the output we can take as the corporate citizens of the country. And for these things now, you have to remember and don't forget, which has been more than 18 years, then you have to open your own tax file. Then for that, you can go for the manual, of course, but the e-services it has provided.
Yeah.
Then for this syllabus, even when it comes to SL3, which it has not included, but purposely it has included to this syllabus very clearly to transfer that knowledge to the student. Hi students, there is which is this digitalization part, which is embedded to tax component. Now entire Sri Lanka, we are going for that concept. Then why don't we can include that to the syllabus? Then the thing, it has very clearly given how RAMIS is going to work in the practically, and little bit of that included to the syllabus. And again, now we have AI, we have cryptocurrencies, we have blockchain. Now, without knowing at least this concept, if there are issues in the taxation, how are we going to apply our domestic law to that? Not only the domestic law, Dumindra, now we have the cross-border transactions and international taxation. Now, e-commerce businesses are one of the key. It's a world spreaded business models. Then, even I know entire about the Inland Revenue Act. If I don't know about the Data Protection Act, which is going to be implemented in, if not mistaken, March 2025.
Yes, 2025.
And again, if I don't know about what is this blockchain, if I don't know about how Uber is operating in the world, then how can I capture these business models, and how can I impose taxes on behalf of the government of Sri Lanka? Or if for a, say, how can I give advice?
Yeah.
Then all these new points, the digitalization, every key part, it has included to the syllabus to students to know about that. For what? For them to know and apply. Then when it comes to the e-commerce businesses, in international taxation, to determine whether this is a permanent establishment or not, to capture for tax, it's a huge difficulty. Now, with those difficulties, we can avoid if we are aware on these things. Then it's again really good point, like a sustainability, like embedded in the law. And again, for this one, the digitalization, it has included. Currently in the domestic we are using that, and even in the future we have to use that. I can tell without these things, no survival. Even we know whatever about of the taxes or anything, then if we don't know about these technologies, then we cannot survive. Then as a hint, it has included to the syllabus, and now it's transferred to the students. Then they know, okay, even the practically to application within this syllabus, it's really difficult. Because to go for the RAMIs and doing the things, I'm talking about the RAMIs not for AI, the cryptocurrencies or blockchains or other parts. The most common example which we have is RAMIs. Then, but students, most of the students, they are working. Even in the audit sector, even in the commercial sector.
Yeah.
Then, under that context, if they don't know how to log into the RAMIs, how to log into the e-service, how to file a return, then it's not a good thing for them.
Yeah.
Then to give that insight, the eagle view of it, then in the syllabus it has included. Then the core concept of the country, it has given to the syllabus to take it as a core concept of the students for the futuristic of the chartered accountants.
Okay,
I
so
think it's really good.
yeah, so it's actually helping all of us, because I think most of the chartered accountants are also turning into the digital side of it, and so without them having to read separately on it, now it's included in the syllabus. Okay, so wonderful. So lots of hope for us as well. Okay, so speaking about hope, and because in most cases we have a lot of cases and stuff. So Ms. Tharika, if I could ask you, there are judgments given for cases and all of that. So moving on to case laws, because in the new curriculum it was mentioned that there are new case laws provided by the institute. Are these case laws new case laws, or is it all available, like case laws that have already been available? Could you tell us a little bit about the case laws mentioned?
Yes, so like you already mentioned, Dumindra, there are new cases which have been included in the syllabus, but I would say the landmark cases remain the same. Right, there are certain cases. I mean, when it comes to derivative action, we discuss a particular case in our syllabus, so that case will not change, right? That is the landmark case that is going to apply. Even though it's a UK case, it's going to apply to Sri Lanka because of the common law. So what has been included are the cases which came a little later, probably in Sri Lanka mostly, and the UK cases, of course, it's going to remain the same. The Sri Lankan cases have been included into the syllabus syllabus a little bit more than what was earlier, because in Sri Lanka the Companies Act, the company law is governed by the common law. So by way of the civil law ordinance, we apply the English law, which is currently remaining in the UK. So that is where that's why we discuss the English cases and apply the English law and whatever that has been upheld in the UK, the judgments as well. So the students may wonder why we are talking about case law at the end of the day, right? So actually that is because these cases actually determined the law. They interpreted the law. The judges interpreted the law, not only the case facts but the law, right? So that's where you have to include those new cases into the syllabus, because in the cases they are going to discuss the developments of the law and the developments of the case, and how the judiciary is looking at the cases from a different perspective. It may have changed from those bygone days where they didn't have digitalization or didn't have sustainability concept in the society. They didn't discuss those things much, but now with the emergence of new concepts, the financial aspect and then also from the economic aspect, now the judges are also looking at the cases from a different angle, from the novel perspective, not rather than going beyond the statute, not just what's there, not just the black letter law. They go beyond that and look at the practical aspect. So I think it will allow the students to understand how the judiciary interprets. I know it's a little difficult for students, but of course we are not going to go into very depth into the law and the legal aspect. It's going to be interesting when you read case law, how how a snail has been put to a bottle, and then how it ultimately ended up in court. So there are going to be interesting case studies like that. So let's see how it will impact the students. But I think because of the judicial precedent, we have to learn these cases because it's going to impact them in future, and ultimately the judges are going to decide in a similar way. They are going to look at the previous cases. So let's see how it's going to be. Obviously there will be new case law which are interesting for students.
Yeah, and we always love reading cases as well and hearing about the cases. So yeah, definitely going to be an interesting change for our participants, our students, aspiring chartered accountants. Okay, so speaking about changes and looking beyond what we already know, Miss Nayananjalee, I want to ask you, because we all want to be big leaders, but there is something in the profession and or rather in the learning leads in the syllabus, there is something in this learning leads in the strategic level. There is Taxation Law for business continuity at C-suite levels. What does that mean? And how does what we learn in this syllabus help to be a big leader?
Yeah, the leader itself for the chartered accountant, it's a one thing, it's a being a chartered accountant, it's a one of the, it's we feel that okay, we are the professional leaders.
Yeah.
Then with that concept, let me come to this. Now in the C-suite level, they are looking for CFOs, CEOs and maybe COOs. From their perspective, how we are going to take decisions, and on that decisions, it may be the financing decision, it may be investment decision, it may be dividend decision, whatever the business decisions, then how the tax perspective can be embedded. It's in the pillar itself, which is a law and tax, we have that holistic view we have. Now, when it comes to your question, you have asked two questions.
Yeah.
In that, when it comes to the first part of the question, then which is we always look at being a leader of the continuation of the business. CFO, CEO, like that, in the continuation of the business, how we are going to plan time to time. Then always we are working in the internal environment, dynamic. Again, the external environment, dynamics. Then for combining these with and our decisions, these are dynamics. Then therefore, at this being a leader, being a chartered accountant, we are looking for the student's perspective. In that concept, this entire the syllabus, I am linked to your second question.
Okay.
It has given a part for the students to be a future leaders. They have given the skill of the problem solving. That's what I can look at very clearly in the syllabus, because they have given options, the real case studies, the scenarios for the students, how the student, any given situation, it may be very tough period of me, it may be in the country very tough situations, it may be the weather conditions are not clear, but still the being a steady person, how I can provide the clear decision. I am in that point a problem solver. Then being a problem solver, then I have to always look at and I have to analyze all the facts and figures very clearly. And for this analysis part, the syllabus, it has given not only the provisions of the Inland Revenue Act, not only the provisions of the VAT, not only the SSCL, now they have included the, which is the Money Laundering Act, and which is the provisions of the cross-border transactions, which taking international perspectives, like in the Australia, UK, now similar small case studies it has taken. Then likewise, for taking now always, if we have good knowledge, if we have good facts with us, then we are in a comfort zone to resolve any problems, to problem solving skill, and to adapt to the decision making, the successful strategic decision making to take, this syllabus has in line. Then I think I have given the all 2 questions, how to be a leader, is this syllabus supports, then who is the leader at the C-suite level, then for the CFO, CEOs and these high positions, and I will add the entrepreneurship later anyway. Then which is here I need to tell with this syllabus all the practical things embedded to the decision making process and the problem solving process as a leader at any given dynamics of the nature of the environment. This even it's a very theoretical, but when it comes to the learning perspective, it has given application, analysis, the explain those embedded in this, even the action verbs, it has given itself under learning outcomes to apply this and look at how this can be impacted. Then in that context, as a leader who is with the very in a decision making, successful decision making perspective, to perform that activities, how we are going to generate that person, that syllabus has given insights to the students.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for explaining that, Ms. Nayananjalee. Okay, so now I actually have a question that I would like to leave as an open question, because something that a lot of our students wanted to know about was the capstone. It was a big question, it's still a big question. So we want to ask you, in terms of tax and law areas, will tax and law areas be required, or will it be tested or assessed within the capstones?
Tharika, can you give your thoughts?
Okay. So yes, now it will be, it's like, yes, now it is considered as a capstone, but it's going to be the same as before. So when it comes to law side, I think taxation, Ms. Nayananjalee can speak. So law, like it was before, it's majorly in CL4, and then it will be discussed only in CL4, not majorly in the other 2, the business level and the strategic level. So in the capstone, I think it's going to be just one part of it, but not like a major part, but it's going to be a part of it. So the capstone is named in a different way, but there will be a discussion and there will be a testing of law. But how much it's going to be tested, it's still a question mark. We are not able to give more information on that to students yet, but my understanding after we attended several lectures on this curriculum revision is that it will be tested, but we are not yet able to give a better understanding to students, and we are yet to receive more instructions from the Chartered Institute.
Okay, so I guess we have to stay tuned with CA Sri Lanka to get more details in the near future as well. And Ms. Nayananjalee,
when it comes to tax, I didn't see in the each subtopics of the capstone in the corporate level as well as the strategic level. The tax part has not very directly included. When if you are asking to select a subtopic which included in tax, unfortunately I cannot found. That's the reason. Then according to the analysis of the given curriculum, that sub areas for the capstone, actually like Tharika said, I don't know at which point it can be amalgamated. Anyway, it's for the practical decisions we have to take. Then in that context it may be, but in the syllabus itself if we have taken, then the direct application is not there.
Okay, understood. Yeah. Okay, so as maybe as part of our concluding remarks, I would like to ask both of you, because this CA Curriculum 2025 expects or gives us an opportunity to have an overall understanding. So can you tell us, in your opinions, how would this overall understanding help our students, our aspiring chartered accountants, in their professional life?
Okay, so definitely I think law is just, I mean, speaking as a lawyer from the law perspective and coming to teaching chartered accountancy, what I have understood is students are not very much focused on law. That is a given, because we can understand they are going to focus more on accountancy and other taxation and other subjects, which I can understand. But I think they have to give at least a little bit more importance to law. Because at the end of the day, what we see when we go work in companies is that most people do not know law, right? They are not aware, like the tiniest things they do not know, and we as lawyers, as legal officers, it's very difficult to explain, so we are overloaded with work. So we want that to improve, because we expect not only the chartered accountants, the future chartered accountants, to learn the law, but they have to teach the law to the others, to those who are going to work with them, and enlighten them on how law is going to impact. So I think from the perspective of the syllabus, even though law is a small area, they have to still focus on that and get a better understanding, because I think in a way it will help them to understand the other areas also. For example, taxation, because now in the discussion also what I understood was, now there is Data Privacy Act in the strategic level, but if they have at least heard, maybe I might mention that act when I'm teaching, right? Because Data Privacy Act, it's a new law, and it's going to it is for violation of personal data. So we may discuss it during the class. I may give some insights into that area, and they may know certain parts of it, because we may discuss how privacy is violated, and also about the Money Laundering Act. We may discuss how money laundering is arising in the society, and how the act, from the act they have to go to the magistrate court, and then how the indictment can be filed in the High Court. So you will get that overall idea, which will equip you better when you go to the strategic level also, to learn certain subjects like taxation and other areas better. So that is in their pathway to becoming a chartered accountant. This is how it will help. And after they become chartered accountants, once they go and start working in a company or become consultants and whatever they want, not just in Sri Lanka, if they go abroad also, I think these discussions will help, what we are going to discuss with the students. So they have to tune themselves to this syllabus, and to all the subjects, I would say. Don't just focus on one, to all the subjects, and give some importance to law. I would just recommend to them. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. And Ms. Nayananjalee, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, then I'll come to like this, which is a story of, which is after becoming a chartered accountant, because that is the aim of all the students. Then therefore, after becoming chartered accountant, then if one can select, okay, I'll go for a company and working on behalf of the company, then I'm employee. There are some persons like me, which is they maybe go for the self-employment. Then this syllabus itself, it is catering to the both in a very which is a constant manner, because the thinking pattern of the student, with it may be the students can tell this is more information overloaded in the syllabus, but it is not.
Yeah.
It is not because as I have mentioned earlier, if we have everything, every nitty-gritty is in my arm's length, then I am so in a comfort zone. Then the same thing, if I am working in a company after the chartered accountant, being a chartered accountant, then according to my role, if I can take quick decisions on the scenarios which happen in the company, if there are issues, if I can resolve those issues quickly, if there are something which is a changing of the sudden changing of the environment which is laws, it happened in Sri Lanka, then under that sudden situations, how can I react? Then, and I have very much full of the skills under this syllabus. Then by taking all these things, then if I can work, if I can deliver my best to my employer, then it's not only for the employee, it's always win-win situation. I'm improving and my employer also improving. Then that's the one part. Under this syllabus, the way path has cleared to the students to go for that in a high level of that manner by embedded in the practical part as well as the skill part, both. When it comes to the self-employment, if anyone wants to start their business, then entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur, now it's again a topic which we are discussing more and more. Then the thing is, the entrepreneurship, we have to have risk of the uncertainty getting failed. But if I know everything, how to do these things correctly, through this syllabus, not only the theory, now we have law, we have tax, we have accounting standards, we have auditing standards, and we have to the capstone, we have how we are applying all these things. And not only that, from the communication modules, my soft skills is going to be developed.
Storytelling.
For storytelling, yes. Then, and which is in the data-driven decision making. Then with all these things, being an entrepreneur, then I have my gut feel, yes, I can do this. Then even for not for the self-employment and for the not only for the person who is working under the main employer, then for both these parties, even for the part-time, then for all these things, the syllabus theory and the practical application, it has given a wonderful opportunity for the future chartered accountants. Now, which I need to tell, this is 2025, they are looking for 2030, the future chartered accountants. Then therefore, that all the avenues, I think it has opened for the students from this syllabus.
Wonderful, and we are definitely looking forward to seeing you as chartered accountants. Thank you very, very much, Ms. Nayananjalee, Ms. Tharika. Thank you for being here, for speaking to us on both tax and law, and for giving us an overall view of what the tax and law subjects will be about. Thank you so much for sharing, both of you.
Thank you for having us for this great discussion. Yeah.
Yes, a very fruitful discussion, I would say. I hope we've answered all your questions. Stay tuned with Learning Pod, brought to you by Infinity Learning Space, as we bring you more fruitful discussions just like these, along with all the updated information and insights.